Before we begin, I'd like to say that a lot of these entries fall under a number of categories: urban legends, creepypastas, conspiracy theories, etc. But I am a man with a plan who, regardless of what they are classified as, I'm going to cover them all anyways. A huge shout out to Death Crush for creating this iceberg in the first place. Now sit back, relax, and take notes while I explain Tier 1 of the Urban Legends Iceberg. Area 51 Aliens is a mysterious military base that's located deep in the Nevada desert. The base was built in the 50s during the Cold War for a place to test experimental aircrafts. The rumor probably started not long after the base was created. See, not long before the inception of Area 51, there was this little known incident that happened in Roswell, New Mexico. You might have heard of it. Fast forward a handful of years and the government is testing out all these sleek stealth aircrafts in the desert, but keeping it super quiet and going as far as to straight up deny the base even existing. As common as it is today to see lights in the sky and brushing them off as planes or satellites, imagine if this were 70 years ago and you didn't know the difference. Fast forward another 20 years to the 80s and a man named Bob Laser, couldn't get more ironic if you tried, goes on to make claims that he worked at a secret site near Area 51 where scientists were reverse engineering alien technology. The security around the place certainly doesn't help their cause. I mean, just take a look at any video of someone trying to approach this place. Signs everywhere, armed patrols, cameras, motion sensors, restricted airspace. The government officially acknowledged the base in 2013 after denying it for decades. Black-eyed children are creatures that resemble children who are often seen begging for money, hitchhiking, or knocking at your door asking for help, but they have black eyes. Not like black eyes, like black eyeballs. You know what I'm saying? These creatures attempt to impersonate children in order to manipulate people with their innocence while supposedly having sinister motives. And anybody who's encountered one has that gut feeling that something just isn't right. Halloween candy. Most of it comes from the classic trick-or-treating gone wrong stuff, like kids getting candy with razor blades in it, poison chocolate, or drugs hidden inside. These stories exploded in the 70s and 80s and turned Halloween into a big paranoia thing for parents. Actual confirmed cases are extremely rare, so that's the good news. Marilyn Manson rib removal is a ye-old internet tale of Marilyn Manson removing his ribs so he can give himself that gluck 3000. I remember being told this one in school and genuinely believing it for the longest time. Manson himself has also publicly denied this claim a number of times. Jersey Devil usually traces back to the 1700s when a woman called Mother Leeds was pregnant with her 13th child. I guess that was her 13th reason. Is that cool with the kids? The story goes that out of frustration or under some sort of curse, she said something along the lines of, "I wish this child would be a devil." When the baby was born, it's said to have turned into a strange creature and escaped into the woods. After that, it turns into a sightings story. People describe the Jersey Devil as a weird animal-like thing moving through the forest, usually with hooved legs, wings like a bat, a horse or a goat-like head, and glowing eyes. It's often said to make loud, unnatural screaming noises at night and move fast enough to disappear into the trees before anybody can get a clear look. In 1909, newspapers across New Jersey and Philadelphia started running stories about it. People claimed it was attacking livestock, flying over towns, and leaving strange tracks in the snow. Fast food / McDonald's urban legends. Surprisingly, I found a whole Wikipedia page dedicated to McDonald's urban legends, but the one that comes to mind is the pink goo. About a decade ago, there was this image circulating the internet, unsurprisingly mostly on Facebook, that showed some kind of pink goo with some variation of the caption, "This is what McDonald's uses to make their nuggets." Naturally, this caused somewhat of an uproar, and even news outlets went to McDonald's factories to debunk this. This rumor has also covered human meat, earthworms, pig fat ice cream, cow's eyeballs, you name it. McDonald's probably has it in their food. I don't even care, dude. I'll eat it anyways, whatever. Black cats, the default superstition. The stories surrounding black cats primarily originated in medieval Europe, where religious paranoia connected the animals to witchcraft and the devil. A widespread story that black cats were actually witches in disguise or demonic familiars acting as supernatural spies that assist witches in performing dark magic. Apparently in the year 1233, Pope Gregory IX issued a decree portraying black cats as the embodiment of Satan, which led to a cat massacre. Rumor has it that this amplified rat populations, which worsened disease spread during plague outbreaks. This isn't confirmed, but is probably true when you think about it. It is also said that if a black cat was seen sitting on the bed of someone who was sick, they are going to die. And in some traditions, spotting one during a funeral was thought to mean another family death might follow soon after. 2016 clown sightings. In 2016, there were mass reports of evil clowns stalking people near forests and schools. Most sightings were never confirmed and were often traced back to pranks, misunderstandings, or people copying what they saw online. Police even investigated in some areas, but generally found no real organized threat. Aren't you glad you didn't turn the light on? The story tells of two college roommates. One is a serious student and the other is a party goer. One night, one roommate stays in to study for an exam while the other goes out. Late that night, the party goer returns to the dorm to grab something she forgot. She enters the dark room quietly so she doesn't wake her friend. While she's there, she hears what sounds like breathing coming from the other bed and assumes her roommate is asleep, and so she leaves without turning the light on. The next morning, she returns to find her roommate brutally murdered in the bed. Painted on the wall in blood is the message, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn the light on?" Ankle slicing car thief. A story I found online from 1994 claims that the author was told not to go shopping at the Tacoma Mall because other women reported that as they returned to their vehicles to offload their groceries, someone was hiding underneath their car and would slash their ankles with a razor so they couldn't get away, thus taking their purse, groceries, and vehicle. Feels like there's a few extra steps here that we didn't need to take. Killer in the back seat. Centers on a woman driving alone who is pursued by another vehicle that flashes its high beams, tailgates, or straight up rams her car. Frightened, she races home, only to discover that the driver was trying to warn her that a murderer or escaped mental patient was hiding in her back seat. Each time the killer moved to attack, the flashing lights startled him, so he ducked down. There are many variations of this story, like a man sneaking into the back seat with some sort of weapon at a gas station while the attendant tries to warn the driver. The hook centers on a young couple parked at a secluded lover's lane. While they're making out, they hear a radio broadcast about a dangerous escape killer, often from a mental institution, who has a hook for a hand. The girl becomes frightened, hearing a scratching sound on the car, and insists they leave. After driving home, they discover a bloody hook caught on the car door handle or stuck to the trunk of the car, and they realize how close they came to being Captain Jack Sparrowed. Bigfoot is a huge ape-like creature supposedly living deep in remote forest, mainly around the Pacific Northwest. Descriptions usually portray it as over 7 feet tall, covered in dark hair, and leaving massive footprints behind. The idea comes from a mix of indigenous stories about wild forest beings and early settler reports of hairy giants. The legend became especially popular after a 1967 film allegedly showing Bigfoot walking through the woods started circulating. You know the one. It's the one. The default one. I think the problem with Bigfoot is how massive the story is. If they do actually exist, and someone out there has definite proof of them existing, the pool is so overpopulated by people faking sightings and evidence that it's generally brushed off. I could see a Bigfoot tomorrow. I could have a 4K, 8K photo of Bigfoot, and nobody would believe me. Bloody Mary / Candyman. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Don't threaten me with a good time. Historically, mirror rituals were used for fortune telling. One old version involved walking backwards up some stairs in the dark with a candle, to which you face a mirror and see your future husband. In some variations, people instead saw a skull or the Grim Reaper, which was taken as a sign that they would die before marriage. The modern Bloody Mary legend became popular in the late 60s. It involves standing in a dark bathroom and saying Bloody Mary into a mirror, usually 3 times, but sometimes they spice it up a little bit. People believe this can summon a ghostly figure in the reflection. Descriptions of her change depending on the story. Sometimes she appears as a corpse, sometimes a witch, sometimes an angry spirit. As for Candyman, the version most people know comes from the 1992 film Candyman, but that movie itself was based on a short story called The Forbidden by Clive Barker. In the legend, saying Candyman 5 times in a mirror is said to summon a hook-handed spirit who appears and kills the person who called him. I watched this movie like a month ago, and I gotta say it gets a lot less scary the older you get. Hanako-san. Originating in Japan, it's about the ghost of a young girl who haunts school bathrooms, usually the third stall on the 3rd floor. She is said to have been killed during a World War II air raid while playing hide and seek, or murdered by her parents or a stranger, or driven to suicide by bullying. To summon her, children traditionally knock 3 times on the 3rd stall door and ask, "Hanako-san, are you there?" A voice may reply, "Yes, I am," with the consequences ranging from a bloody hand pulling the summoner into the toilet to encounters with a 3-headed lizard. New Coke was intentional. The idea is that Coke wanted to switch from sugar to high fructose corn syrup because it's cheaper, but it doesn't taste exactly the same. So instead of slowly changing it, they drop New Coke as a full replacement. Then they wait for the old stock to disappear and then bring back the original Coke when everybody complains. On paper, it looks like they listened to the public, but really they just shifted the recipe. The good old pulling the wool over the sheep's eyes or whatever they be saying. Slenderman. Slenderman first appeared on the Something Awful forums during a Photoshop contest sometime in 2009. The image shows a tall, extremely thin, faceless man in a black suit placed in the seemingly normal photos. In most versions of the story, he lurks in forest or isolated areas and quietly stalks people, often focusing on children. The lore says he can cause memory loss, paranoia, and hallucinations, and sometimes influences people into acting for him. He's also linked to disappearances. I'd imagine the Slenderman games most big YouTubers were playing back in the day skyrocketed creepypastas surrounding him. There's a few here that follow the same general theme, so I'm just gonna bunch them all together. Tupac is alive. Despite being pronounced dead on September 13th, 1996 from gunshot wounds, there are a few theories out there trying to dispute this. Hear me out here, okay? So, Tupac releases an album called The Don Illuminati, The 7-Day Theory, under the alias Machiavelli, in reference to Niccolo Machiavelli, who allegedly faked his death. So here's the kicker, okay? Are you ready? I can't even say this with a straight face. Fans claim that Machiavelli can be rearranged to "Am Alive," okay? This isn't an urban legend, by the way. This is just real facts. Avril Lavigne Replaced claims she died shortly after her debut album was released and replaced by a woman named Melissa Vandella. If you were around at the time, you know how big Avril Lavigne was, and so her dying would equal loss of potential profit. It's stated that her appearance changed so significantly that it could not possibly be the same Avril that released Let Go. This was backed up by subliminal messaging on her follow-up album, as well as a photo shoot she did where she had the name Melissa written on her hand. Lindsay Lohan actually has a twin. This is likely because of the movie The Parent Trap, where Lindsay Lohan plays herself and her twin, making people misremember that it was just her playing 2 roles. Some people also claim that they remember her having a twin that died, but this is likely a Mandela effect, which is where a large group of people share the exact same false memory. Famous examples of this are the Berenstain Bears, that many people believe were actually named the Berenstein Bears, or Looney Tunes being spelled Looney Tunes, as in cartoons. Paul is dead refers to the conspiracy theory that Paul McCartney died in 1966 and was replaced by a lookalike. It is said that McCartney died in a car crash, and to spare the public from grief, the Beatles replaced him. This led to people overanalyzing the Beatles' music, including a message interpreted as "Turn Me On, Dead Man," heard when the track Revolution 9 is played backwards. It's a tale as old as time, people. Ex-celebrity dies, is replaced by a lookalike. Satanic panic was a widespread moral panic where people believed secret satanic cults were abusing, kidnapping, and even murdering children and brainwashing them with things in the media like Dungeons and Dragons, video games, music, etc. Satanic backmasking is a claim made during the Satanic Panic that musicians were secretly embedding satanic or subliminal commands into their songs by recording them backwards. Examples of this say that Stairway to Heaven contained hidden phrases like "Here's to my sweet Satan," or another one, Bites the Dust, containing the backward message, "It's fun to smoke marijuana." Subliminal messaging is the idea that hidden or very fast signals can influence thoughts or behavior without you noticing. It's like when you watch a movie and the main character just so happens to be drinking a Coke in every scene. Melonheads are small feral humanoids with abnormally large bulbous heads that are primarily linked to the forests of Michigan, Ohio, and Connecticut. Only in Ohio, am I right, fellas? Two of the main stories I found surrounding these are about children who endured some form of abuse at an asylum and in retaliation burnt down the asylum or killed the deranged doctor who was performing experiments on them. Chupacabra. In 1975, a series of livestock killings in Puerto Rico were attributed to what the locals called the Vampire of Maca. Initially, these were brushed off as the classic satanic cults claim. Don't know why that was so common. In March 1995, 8 sheep were discovered dead in Puerto Rico, each with 3 puncture wounds in the chest area and reportedly completely drained of blood. From here, the legend quickly spread, with reports of animals being killed in a similar manner all across the world. Sightings are still ongoing to this day, though most are brushed off as some wild animal like a dog or a coyote with mange. Doveland, Wisconsin was supposedly a small town that somehow, some way, vanished off the face of the earth sometime in the 90s, with people claiming they have shirts or souvenirs from the town and that they remember having a relative who lived there at some point and even visited themselves. There's also this photo that was quote-unquote recovered from the town. Many theories have surfaced since its inception, like it was a town that simply dispersed due to a failing economy or a lack of employment, etc. The classic mining town epidemic. Chances are, though, this is just a story made for the internet. Devil's Footprint was a phenomenon that occurred in 1855 in England. After a storm, people claimed to find long trails of hoof-like marks in the snow, stretching for many miles. The tracks appeared overnight and were reportedly across multiple locations, sometimes in a single file line and spaced in a way that looked like a 2-legged creature. Some reports said the marks went over roofs, walls, even rivers without stopping. Because of the hoof shape, some locals believe the tracks were made by the devil, giving the event its name. Well to Hell is a famous urban legend stating that Russian scientists drilled a Kola super deep borehole in Siberia, and according to the story, they lowered a microphone into the hole and recorded human-like screams coming from underground, along with extreme heat and other strange phenomena. In some versions, something demonic escapes from the borehole. Apparently the sources of these sounds have been found, and it was just some silly little noise collage someone made at some point. Polybus is a video game that was made as a government experiment run by a mysterious group, where upon playing, players experience nightmares, memory loss, seizures, and addictive behavior. Men in Black would allegedly collect data from the machines and monitor players. The machines were said to be visited frequently, then suddenly removed without explanation, and the game vanished completely. Men in Black are described as pale, emotionless men in dark suits who arrive shortly after witnesses report UFOs. They intimidate people into staying quiet, confiscate evidence, or erase memories. Sometimes they're said to act strangely human, suggesting they might not be human at all. Will Smith moment, certified Will Smith moment. G.I. Jane. The Spider Bite. A young woman vacationing in a tropical location is bitten on the cheek by a spider. The bite initially appears to be minor, but swells into a painful boil. When the boil is popped, it releases a swarm of baby spiders that had been laid as eggs under her skin. Bunny Man. On October 19th, 1970, a couple reported a man in a white bunny suit with long ears throwing a hatchet through their car window and yelling at them for trespassing. Again, 12 days later, on October 31st, 1970, a security guard encountered a man in a gray and black bunny costume chopping at a porch post with an axe, who then threatened to chop off his head. Seems like there were a few reports of Bunny Man sightings around the same time period that newspapers covered. Licked Hand. Also known as the babysitter and the man upstairs, a young girl is left home alone with her dog. After hearing news of an escaped killer, she feels frightened. To comfort herself, she lets her dog sleep under the bed, where it can lick her dangling hand. During the night, she hears a dripping sound from the bathroom, but upon reaching down, feels the dog's lick, which reassures her. This happens multiple times. The next morning, she discovers her dog slaughtered in the bathroom, with its throat slit, with blood dripping into the tub. A message written in blood on the mirror says, "Humans can lick too." This actually happened to me. I actually wrote this story, to be honest. Skinwalkers. The origin of skinwalkers is usually described as someone gaining dark supernatural power by committing a serious taboo, most commonly killing a family member like a sibling. It's not something you're born with, but something you become by choosing to follow a forbidden path known as the Witchery Way. They're said to gain witch-like abilities, including shape-shifting into animals at will, like coyotes, wolves, or bears. They usually use this ability to cause harm, spread fear, or disrupt the natural order. Mothman. In November of 1966, in West Virginia, two couples driving near an abandoned World War II munition site called the TNT area saw a huge winged creature with glowing red eyes that chased their car at over 100 miles per hour. They described it as a 7-foot-tall, gray humanoid figure with massive wings that rose up like a helicopter. Over the next year, more than 100 people reported similar sightings. A man in Salem, West Virginia claimed that his dog vanished after running towards two red eyes in the woods. Others saw the creature near their homes, on their rooftops, or perched on power lines. It's never directly attacked anyone, but anybody who's encountered it has left terrified. On December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed, which killed 46 people. Several of the witnesses reported seeing the Mothman on the bridge before it fell. Flatwoods Monster. On September 12, 1952, a group of locals, including children and a National Guardsman named Eugene Lemon, saw a bright light in the sky and went to investigate. They claimed to encounter an 8-foot-tall man-like figure with a round red ace of spades shaped head, glowing eyes, claw-like hands, and a dark lower body that resembled a skirt. The creature reportedly hissed at them, causing the group to flee in panic. Later witnesses reported a pungent mist and symptoms like nausea and throat irritation. There has been no sighting since 1952. Baltic Sea Anomaly is an underwater object discovered in 2011 on the floor of the Baltic Sea by a Swedish diving team using sonar. The image showed a circular dome-like formation about 60 meters across with what looked like straight edges and right-angle shapes. The team returned for further dives, but said their electronic equipment stopped working near the site. It is speculated that it might be a crashed UFO, a lost Nazi weapon, a secret military installation, or an ancient structure. Loch Ness Monster is a large animal with a long neck and one or more humps rising above the water. The earliest story linked to it goes back to 565 AD when St. Columba encountered a water beast in the river Ness and drove it off. In April of 1933, Aldi McKay reported seeing a whale-like fish moving in Loch Ness. A few months later, George Spicer described a large, long-necked creature crossing the road in front of his car like a quote-unquote dragon or prehistoric animal. In 1934, a photograph surfaced showing what looks to be the Loch Ness Monster. Sightings continued, and in 1960, a film was released by Tim Dimsdale, Tim's Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome, which showed a dark hump moving across the water. Boogeyman is a shadowy, shape-shifting entity who carries a sack to kidnap misbehaving children by hiding under their bed, in their closet, or scratching at their window while they try to sleep. Alien autopsy footage is a hoax created in 1995 by Ray Satili and his partner Gary Shufield. They claim to have obtained a real film from a retired military cameraman showing an autopsy on an extraterrestrial recovered from the 1947 Roswell UFO crash. The footage was a grainy 17-minute black and white film that aired on Fox in August of 1995 under the title Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction. It depicted men in hazmat suits dissecting a stereotypical alien-like creature. Unfortunately, in 2006, they admitted that the footage was fake. Sewer alligators. In the 1930s, tourists bought baby alligators as a pet, and once they grew too large, they flushed them down the toilet. And in the sewers, they survived by eating rodents and, shit, I guess. In 1935, a group of kids claimed they were shoveling snow and discovered a manhole that had an 8-foot, 125-pound alligator inside. They hauled it out and killed it with shovels. Chad, are we serious right now? Are we serious right now? A man named Teddy May, the commissioner of sewers at the time, claimed to have seen colonies of small alligators underground and even organized a campaign to exterminate them. 27 Club is a term for the trend of celebrities dying at the age of 27, often from drug-related causes. These names range from Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse, to name a few. Friday the 13th. The fear comes from two older beliefs: that the number 13 is unlucky, and that Friday has historically been seen as an unlucky day in Western traditions. When combined, the date became associated with bad luck, accidents, and misfortune. Some people avoid traveling, they'll reschedule their weddings or any major life event. It certainly doesn't help that there's a massive horror franchise with the same name. Body in the bed. A person staying in a hotel later discovers that there was a corpse hidden in the bed or room the entire time, sometimes under the mattress, sometimes in the sheets. The guest usually only realizes after a smell develops or when staff check the room later. If you don't believe this, there actually are real events that have had this happen. Lincoln-Kennedy connections. Both were elected to Congress in a year ending in 46 and to presidency in years ending in 60. Their last names each have 7 letters and both were deeply concerned with civil rights. Both wives lost a child while living in the White House. They were both assassinated on a Friday, shot in the head while seated behind their wives. Lincoln was killed at Ford's Theater, while Kennedy was shot in a Lincoln automobile made by Ford. Both were succeeded by vice presidents named Johnson, who were Southern Democrats born in a year ending in 08. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy and warned him not to go to theater, while Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln and warned him not to go to Dallas. Their assassins, John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald, were both known by 3 names, born in a year ending in 39, and their names each contained 15 letters. After shooting Lincoln, Booth ran from a theater and was caught in a warehouse. And after shooting Kennedy, Oswald ran from a warehouse and was caught in a theater. Both assassins were killed before they could stand trial. I think some of these have been debunked, but holy shit, dude, how does that even happen? Skunk apes is an ape-like creature that inhabits the swamps of southern Florida. Most reports describe the same general pattern: a large ape-like figure around 6 to 8 feet tall. Witnesses often say it moves fast and gives off a strong rotten or skunk-like odor, which is the main reason for its name. Jeff the Killer. Essential creepypasta. There's like a 99% chance that you've seen this photo. Jeffrey Woods was a teenager who moves to a new neighborhood with his family. Shortly after arriving, Jeff and his brother Lou are attacked by a group of bullies. Jeff fights back, severely injuring them, but Lou takes the blame and is sent to juvenile hall, leaving Jeff depressed. At a neighbor's birthday party, the same bullies ambush Jeff for revenge. They douse him with vodka and bleach and set him on fire, causing horrific burns that bleach his skin white and destroy his nose and lips. Upon waking in the hospital, Jeff becomes obsessed with his disfigurement. He slices his cheeks into a permanent, grotesque smile and burns off his eyelids so he never has to close his eyes, famously stating, "I want to see my face every time I open my eyes." After being released, Jeff murders his parents and his brother while whispering his iconic catchphrase, "Go to sleep." He then escapes into the night, becoming a serial killer who stalks his victim, often appearing in bedrooms to repeat his catchphrase before attacking. Black dogs. The legend centers on nocturnal, supernatural hounds that are significantly larger than normal dogs, often possessing glowing red eyes or yellow eyes. Encountering a black dog was widely regarded as an omen of impending tragedy or death. Black dogs are often also seen by sleep-deprived drivers or truckers. When a driver is pushing themselves too hard and on the verge of falling asleep at the wheel, a massive black dog suddenly darts in front of the truck. Fetch me their souls, you know what I'm saying? SCPs, an organization that secures, contains, and protects abnormal objects, creatures, and phenomena Each SCP is given a number and documented, describing what it is, how it behaves, and how it's contained. Some examples of these are SCP-173, a concrete statue that can move extremely fast when not being observed and is said to attack people by snapping their necks. SCP-49, a humanoid figure known as the Plague Doctor that believes it can cure a mysterious disease by killing and reanimating people. SCP-999, which is a jelly-like entity that makes people feel intense happiness and calm instead of fear. Need me some of that SCP-999 right about now. Goatman. The creature was a result of a genetic experiment gone wrong at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, where scientists fused human DNA with a goat. It then broke out of its containment, killing all of the researchers in the process, and then escaped to the surrounding woods. The axe-wielding beast is known to attack couples in parked cars, to decapitate pets, and haunt the woods near Fletchertown Road. Skeleton in the trees. There are a few things this entry can be, but I believe it refers to lumberjacks who cut down large hollow trees and find human remains inside. Sometimes they can be found with personal belongings like a diary, weapons, things like that. There's a famous case from the 40s where 4 boys discover a human skull inside a hollow witch elm tree, and later a police recovered a woman's skeleton from inside and around the tree. Her identity was never confirmed, but she became known as Bella. Along with the remains, investigators found clothing fragments, a shoe, and a wedding ring, suggesting that the body had been placed there and left undiscovered for some time. About a year later, graffiti began appearing in the area asking who put Bella in the witch elm. Simpsons predictions are a collection of scenes from The Simpsons that appear to predict real-world events. These range from Donald Trump's presidency, smartwatches and video calls, Lady Gaga's Super Bowl performance, the Notre Dame fire, Disney buying Fox. Ed, and Eddie Purgatory claims that the characters from the cartoon are actually dead children trapped in a purgatory-like afterlife. Each kid died in a tragic event from different time periods, and now reside in the isolated cul-de-sac which represents their shared limbo. For example, Rolf was trampled by animals in 1903, Johnny died from tuberculosis in 1922, Eddie drowned in a lake during the Great Depression, and Jimmy died from leukemia in 2000. Theories to back this up are that the characters have blue or green tongues, the lack of visible adults, and the endless summer. Green Man. I believe this entry refers to Raymond Robinson, aka the Green Man, aka Charlie No Face. Raymond was born in 1910 in Pennsylvania and was severely injured as a child in an electrical accident that left him badly disfigured. Because of his appearance, he avoided being seen in public during the day and instead took long walks at night along rural roads. Over time, locals began spreading stories about a mysterious, faceless, or glowing green figure seen on these roads. Tourists would sometimes drive out specifically to try and spot him. Bottomless pits are often described as holes in the earth that are incredibly deep, swallow objects without filling up, and exhibit supernatural phenomena like returning dead animals to life or emitting strange lights. The most famous example is Mel's Hole near Ellensburg, Washington, which gained fame through a 1997 coast-to-coast AM radio broadcast by a guest claiming to be Mel Waters, who alleged that the pit was deeper than 80,000 feet and possessed magical properties. Gliders. A pilot named Don Wood Jr. claimed that while landing with other pilots, they saw a strange disc-shaped object on the ground that looked like a living creature instead of a machine. He said it moved like it was opening and closing and had a glowing red underside. He said that a much larger disc appeared to pick up the smaller one and both flew into the sky. He also claimed that there was a bad smell and some unusual residue left behind. He didn't report it at the time and only talked about it years later in a magazine letter. Later, UFO writers used his story to support the idea that UFOs might not be ships, but actually living creatures in the atmosphere. Michigan Dogman. A 7-foot-tall bipedal creature with the head of a dog and the torso of a man, known for its terrifying howl that sounds like a human scream. In 1887, 2 lumberjacks saw the creature in the woods. It appears in a repeating cycle every 10 years, especially years ending in 7. In 2017, Tucker Joe Barger said he encountered the creature while driving through a national forest. He said that he saw it running along the side of his truck scratching at the window. He shot the creature twice, but when he returned minutes later, it was gone, replaced by a Jeep with 2 people who claimed to have seen bears fighting. Barger alleged federal authorities later threatened him to stay silent, claiming he had killed one of their assets. Amityville House. Gaining notoriety on November 13th, 1974, when Ronald Defoe Jr. murdered his parents and 4 siblings while they slept. Using a rifle, Defoe killed all 6 family members who were found face down in their beds. He initially blamed the mob, but later confessed, claiming that voices in the house commanded him to commit the acts. People who went on to stay in the Amityville house say that green slime oozed from the walls, there were foul odors and cold spots, they heard doors slamming, furniture moving, and a priest was commanded to get out by a disembodied voice, after which he reportedly had blisters on his hands. Some claims say there was a pig-like creature with red eyes staring out the window, and that people levitated while they slept. George Lutz, somebody who owned the house, said that every night he'd wake up at 3:15 a.m., which was the approximate time that the Defoe murders occurred. The house is still standing today, though it seems people who buy it go out of their way to change its appearance to deter tourists. Endless elevators. Is the idea that some elevators don't stop at the normal basement floors, but instead keep descending into hidden underground levels deep beneath the earth. A lot of the myth comes from Richard Sharp Shaver, a 1940s writer who claimed abandoned buildings and secret elevators could access a vast underground world filled with ancient ruins and dangerous humanoid beings. Over time, the idea merged with other urban legends like Japan's elevator game, where pressing a certain sequence of buttons supposedly transports someone to another dimension. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, leave a video reply. Tier 2 should be out sometime in the foreseeable future. Don't forget to hide under the like button's bed and lick its hand while it sleeps. You probably don't need to kill its dog though, that's a bit overkill. Later.
I used to wake up in my room in the morning, put on my dirty shoes in the morning. Heard mama crying last night, think the lights finna go out. Going through my mind is getting a lick. Her nigga in prison for doing some shit. Say I'ma go to prison for doing some shit. Only thing on my mind is booming the bitch.